The Galaxy Note series wasn't just another smartphone lineup, it was a game changer. It had a huge display and a stylus in the era of compact phones. It seemed ridiculous at the time. Fast forward a few years, and the Note series wasn't just a success. It became the phone for power users. If you wanted the best Samsung had to offer, the Note was it. So why did Samsung kill the Note series? Most people think of a certain Note phone for being the reason, and while it definitely played a role, it's far from the whole story. So today we're going to be breaking down exactly why Samsung said goodbye to one of its most iconic product lines, and how the Note still lives on in ways that you might not expect. Back in 2011, when the Note was first released, it redefined what a smartphone could be. As mentioned before, it was a phone with a huge at the time 5.3-inch display. It was unheard of in a world where 4-inch screens were considered massive, but the Note wasn't just about size, it was about pushing boundaries. Over the years, the Note series introduced features that set it apart as a pioneer in smartphone innovation. Features like split screen mode debuted on the Note series, letting users run two apps side by side long before it became standard on other Android devices. Many of these innovations eventually made their way to Samsung's mainstream Galaxy S lineup. The Note was always the go-to phone for power users, serving as Samsung's productivity-focused flagship in their lineup of premium devices. But by 2020, it all came to an end with the Galaxy Note 20 and Note 20 Ultra. While the Note 20 received criticism for its price value with the plastic back, the Note 20 Ultra received high praise for its premium build and features and was loved by a majority of Samsung fans. Yet despite positive reactions to the Note 20 Ultra, Samsung decided to axe the series altogether. So what went wrong? If you know anything about the Galaxy Note series, you've probably heard of the Note 7. It's the phone that became infamous not for its features, but for its catastrophic failure. When Samsung launched the Note 7 in 2016, it was hyped as the ultimate flagship. It had a stunning design, powerful specs, and some really impressive features for its time. But it all went downhill fast. Within weeks of its release, reports started to pop up about the Note 7 overheating and catching fire. Samsung quickly issued a recall, replacing all affected devices with safe units. But even those devices started to catch on fire too. It got so bad that airlines had to ban the phones entirely, and Samsung had no choice but to pull the Note 7 from the market completely. The whole ordeal cost Samsung billions of dollars and left a massive dent in their reputation. For the Note series, the damage was even worse. The Note 7 disaster turned what had been a symbol of innovation into a punchline. Exploding phones became the go-to joke whenever Samsung was mentioned, and the company had to work overtime to rebuild trust in its brand. But here's the thing, while the Note 7 fiasco was a major setback, it wasn't the only reason why the Note series came to an end. Even if the Note 7 had been a flawless release, I still think that Samsung would eventually have killed the lineup. The disaster just sped up the process. There were much bigger factors at play, and that's what we're going to dive into next. The Note was an incredible device for its time, there's no doubt about it. But there's another Note device you may not have heard of. Today's sponsor, Plod Note. You've probably been in a meeting or a lecture where trying to take notes feels impossible. Either you miss something important, or you're left replaying hours of recordings to find one key detail. Well, that's where Plod Note comes in. It's the world's first AI-powered voice recorder that not only records, but transcribes, summarizes, and organizes everything for you, all in a sleek, portable device. Plod Note features one-press dual-mode recording so that you can effortlessly capture meetings, calls, lectures, and even voice memos with zero distractions. You can magnetically clip it to the back of your phone for quick access, and it's ready to record for up to 20 hours straight without any interruption. But the real game changer? It's AI features. Powered by ChatGPT 4o, Plod Note can transcribe recordings with incredible accuracy in 59 languages and even summarize them for you in seconds, so you can generate to-do lists, pull key metrics, or get conclusions instantly. Plus, tools like speaker labels and customizable templates make it even easier to stay organized. And unlike recording apps on your phone, Plod Note is reliable and frictionless. There's no fumbling around with unlocking your phone or finding the right app. You just press one button and you're good to go. It even syncs seamlessly across devices, so you can start a project on one and finish on another without losing any progress. One thing I've noticed is how much easier Plod Note is compared to using an app. With apps, you often have to deal with a bunch of authorizations and integrations to get them working with meeting platforms like Google Meet, Zoom, Teams, or FaceTime. It's not only a hassle, but it could also raise concerns about privacy and security. Plus, switching between work tasks while managing all these permissions on your phone or computer just highlights the limitations of using an app for recording. With Plod Note, it's a completely different story. There's no setup, no permissions to worry about, just a single button and you're recording. It's simple, secure, and gets the job done without any extra steps. Honestly, Plod Note is like having your own productivity assistant without the monthly salary. If you're tired of struggling to stay organized or wasting time replaying recordings, this little device is a must-have. Check it out for yourself in the link in the description, and thanks to Plod Note for sponsoring this video. Now then, another big reason for the decision to kill the Note was that it started to overlap way too much with the Galaxy S lineup, specifically the Ultra models. Back in the early days of the Note, it was easy to tell these two series apart. The Galaxy S phones were the mainstream flagship, while the Note was the oversized powerhouse for productivity. But over time, that line started to blur. Once the Galaxy S20 Ultra rolled around in 2020, the differences between the S Ultra and the Note series were getting harder to spot. Both had massive screens, top-tier specs, and even similar designs. The only thing really setting the Note apart was the S Pen, and when Samsung added S Pen support to the Galaxy S21 Ultra, it was pretty clear that the Note was on borrowed time. Samsung releasing two nearly identical premium phones each year didn't really make much sense. It created confusion for customers and made the lineup feel overcrowded. By combining the best parts of the Note into the Galaxy S Ultra, Samsung streamlined its flagship lineup while still giving fans what they loved most about the Note series. And honestly, it worked. The Galaxy S Ultra models are basically the Note series in disguise at this point, just with a new name. But while this overlap was a big reason for the Note's demise, it wasn't the only factor. Let's take a look at another big shift in Samsung's strategy that also played a huge role: foldables. If there's one thing Samsung loves, it's being the first to innovate. And by 2019, they were already shifting their focus towards what they believed was the future of smartphones: foldable devices. Enter the Galaxy Z Fold and Z Flip series. These phones weren't just another addition to the lineup. They became Samsung's new definition of cutting-edge technology. When you look at foldables like the Galaxy Z Fold, it's easy to understand how they fill the gap left by the Note series. The Z Fold, for example, takes the concept of a large screen productivity device to the next level. Unfold it, and you've got a mini tablet perfect for multitasking. And yes, it even supports the S Pen. It's basically the Note on steroids. But Samsung couldn't have the Galaxy S, the Note, and all of the foldables competing for attention at the same time. That's just way too many flagship lines, and something had to go. Since the Galaxy S Ultra could take over the Note spot in the lineup, the Note series ended up being the one to get the axe. The timing also made sense. Samsung killed off the Note just a couple years after foldables started gaining traction. It's clear that they wanted to redirect their resources towards foldable tech, which makes sense. Foldables stand out in a way that the Note series just wasn't anymore, especially with how similar it had become to the Galaxy S Ultra. But even with foldables taking the spotlight, there's still one more factor we need to talk about: sales. Because let's be honest, none of this would have mattered if the Note series was still selling like crazy. Back in its prime, the Note series was a massive success. Phones like the Note 3 and Note 4 were flying off the shelves, and the lineup had a loyal fan base. But after the Note 7 disaster, sales started to slip, and they never really bounced back to what they once were. By the time the Note 20 series came out in 2020, it was clear that the Note just wasn't pulling in the numbers it used to. Sure, the Note 20 Ultra was a hit with fans, but the regular Note 20 didn't quite land as well. And in a world where even mid-range phones were offering bigger screens and better specs, the Note series didn't feel as special anymore. It also comes down to cost. Developing a new phone isn't cheap, especially when you're trying to pack in all the features that made the Note series stand out. If sales aren't high enough to justify the R&D costs, it doesn't really make much sense to keep the lineup going. Samsung probably looked at the numbers and realized that they could get more out of combining the Note with the Galaxy S Ultra than keeping it as a standalone series. But the Note's declining sales were just one piece of the puzzle. When you combine that with the rise of foldables, the overlap with the Galaxy S Ultra, and the lingering effect with the Note 7 disaster, it's easy to see why Samsung decided to move on. That said, even though Samsung officially killed the Note series, it really didn't die. It just evolved. If you look at the Galaxy S Ultra models in the last few years, you've probably noticed something familiar. That large squared off design, the S Pen integration, I think it's safe to say that the energy of the Note is still here. The Galaxy S Ultra is essentially the Note rebranded. As mentioned before, starting with the S21 Ultra, Samsung added S Pen compatibility, and by the time the S22 Ultra came out, they even brought back the built-in slot for the stylus. But the Note's influence doesn't stop there. The S Pen is expanded into other parts of the lineup too. You can use it with the Galaxy Z Fold series, giving foldable fans that classic Note experience, just on a much bigger screen. It's also a staple feature of Samsung's Galaxy Tab lineup, solidifying its role as a productivity tool across devices. In a way, the Note series was never just about the name, it was about what it stood for: innovation, productivity, and giving users tools to do more. And all of that still exists, just under different branding. Whether it's the Galaxy S Ultra, the Z Fold, or even Samsung's tablets, the Note spirit is still alive and well.